So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Winds anime finally got its second opening, and much like Fighting Gold, it is flush with Easter eggs and fun callbacks to the manga, alongside a lot of foreshadowing to future events of the anime. So together let's go through and analyze every moment in this Traitor's Requiem. The opening starts with actually the very end of Part 5, with the window that Mista opens up to let in some air while Giorno is taking the throne of Passione. But after that we get a flashback to Venezia, the place where the crew became the traitors of the song Traitor's Requiem. Accompanying this scene is the symbolic sunrise, the start of a new adventure for these newly labeled traitors. An adventure being led by the dream of a rising sun himself, Giorno, especially since Giorno literally means morning or day. Then we see a string of events which recap the story so far in order of appearance, all focusing on the major moments of those fights leading up to Bruno in the elevator. These moments being Giorno's introduction into the gang, Abbacchio's understanding of the secret of Soft Machine, Soleil setting up his final attack that would lead to his defeat during Kraftwerks, the Wild West draw scene between Narancia and Fumaggio, Aluzio appearing in the mirror next to Fugo, Pesci attempting to rescue Prosciutto from Bruno when he pulls him out of the train, the standoff between Giorno and Babyface, and of course the rising sun scene from the White Album fight. These moments are all important to these characters in some way or another, and they've been recontextualized by the anime itself to have specific meanings. First, of course, all of Giorno's scenes here are major moments of growth for him as a character. Then all the gang scenes here are their respected flashback fights, and of course, Bruno's moment is showing his true dedication to his mission, showing why he deserves the title of Capo. And speaking of Bruno, the next shot is of him with a zipper starting from the top of his head and pulling down. As it goes over his body, it saturates him with a crimson color palette, representing King Crimson and Diavolo racing the time in the elevator to snatch Trish out of Bruno's hands. All the while also representing him being filled with rage and betrayal in his fight against the boss, because the fact that it starts from his head and goes down his face is very similar to the moment in which Bruno unzips his head to retrieve his stored communicator. Then from the scene of Trish getting her arm severed, which is the precise moment that put Bruno over the edge and made him want to betray, we get the next shot of the crew turning traitor, and the order in which everyone walks towards the boat is the order that they actually all chose to betray the boss, with Giorno starting lead because he was already joining the gang to betray the boss, followed by Abbacchio, who couldn't see life without Bruno, then Mista, and when Bruno begins to walk away, Narancia chases after him last second, alongside an obvious movement on Fugo's part to try to stop Narancia from leaving. Also, a neat little detail, every time someone begins to walk away in that moment, Narancia seems to hesitate before stopping until Bruno himself begins to leave. Next, we move on to a bunch of manga cover references and foreshadowing to future fights, starting first with Bruno, whose sticky fingers is reeled back from an attack to show Bruno standing similar to how he does on the cover for chapter 517, Bruno's Childhood. Then we transition to Giorno and his gold experience, posing together just like the cover for chapter 502, Babyface Part 3. Then we transition into Abbacchio with his partner, whose weapon is drawn, but then he is shot, showing that he was actually Moody Blues, connecting Moody Blues to Abbacchio's past, along with showing us the same pose that Abbacchio strikes on chapter 460, Moody Blues Part 1. And then you have Narancia, who's standing from a squatting position and motioning Aerosmith to attack, which seems to be more the attack from Formaggio vs. Narancia than Narancia vs. Clash and Talking Head, but they both end the same way with Aerosmith landing on his arm runaway, followed suit by Mista firing 3 bullets. These 3 shots are 3 different things. Of course, the first 3 shots we see fired by Mista are the ones aimed at the fleeing Soleil. Then the 3 bullets fired at the fleeing Chocolate, and then of course you have the 3 bullets that killed Carnet, which transition us into Spice Girls, who is actually appearing for her first time on screen in the anime. It's a blink and you miss it shot too, because Spice Girls is actually huddled in her iconic pose in which she appears in for the first time until she stands up and unleashes a flurry of blows, which is in reference to when Trish smashes the cockpit of the plane to make it soft so their landing can be safe. In fact, it even transitions from this flurry of blows to the iconic cover of Notorious B.I.G. 5, where the entire crew is falling from the sky. And then from there we get the first on-screen shot of the best boy, Doppio, looking into his bangs and seeing risotto. Then he stands up to make his iconic ringing noises, grabbing his head in the same way he does when Diavolo takes control of him during the fortune teller scene, and then zooming into his eye, showing the location of the Metallica fight, and the same location in which the boss and Donatella Una took their famous picture. picture together. Now, there's actually a lot more to unpack here than you might think. First, of course, you have that Doppio has a lot of callbacks to panels in the manga here, especially with his ringing noise, but it's specifically the choice to zoom in on his eye that's very important, as it references 3 different things. Of course, Doppio's use of Epitaph during the fight, Doppio looking for an invisible risotto during that said fight, and of course, Doppio and Diavolo, when they inhabit the same body, their eyes are very different depending on who's in control. When Doppio's eyes change, that means Diavolo is looking through them, which might play more into an edited version, because the reason Doppio grabs his head is when Diavolo's taking over, so I can imagine that in a future edit of that scene, he'll grab his head and he'll look up and his eyes will be Diavolo's eyes. Also, the shot of Sardinia going dark and flipping upside down is also a reflection of Abbacchio's death, turning the crew's hopes dark and flipping their plans upside down. Also, it can be seen as a transition from Abbacchio's life to death, as the screen flips as it turns dark, showing his ascension into the heavens, and that the ground below him is now the sky. And it's of course not the first time that David Productions has hinted at Abbacchio's death. This one's just a lot more subtle. And then alongside this, we get a reference to both the original opening with the bleeding hand, but also a definite reference to the blood dripping trick that the crew develops to determine when a time skip has occurred. Though whose hand that exactly is, I'm not entirely sure, but I have my guesses. Then next comes a great exchange of blows between the still hidden boss and Giorno, while above the Requiem arrow flies over, showing that the battle is over this key to evolution. Then when the smoke clears from the battle, we see Giorno stands victorious, holding the arrow the same way he does in the manga. Along with this, the scene of the arrow floating above them is a callback to Bruno's spirit guiding the arrow to Giorno's possession, since it floats among the clouds where Bruno is during that moment. And then Giorno holds the arrow on high and pierces himself with it. Assumedly, in future edits of this opening, we will see Gold Experience Requiem do something, but until then, we get a hard cut of Giorno sealing the arrow away within the turtle. This is then followed up by the title presented in unique styles, and everything coming full circle. This opening is absolutely fantastic, and I love every second of it. I like the little details of the backgrounds being the settings of the fight that the characters are fighting in. I also love any reference to the manga itself. I think that's one of the best things that the JoJo openings can do, so that seeing so many, like, small little details be added to this opening just excites me to no end. And of course, I like making the predictions for future changes, so what I imagine is that when Diavolo is in control, that there's gonna be a bunch of King Crimson fuckery with the lyrics and the skipping. All the upbeat tones from the song's lyrics will be cut, and all the hopeful segments will be cut. We'll also see a replacement of the shadowed boss form of Diavolo with his actual design. Along with this, I can see the scene of the arrow going through the sky among the clouds, that there's a lot of cutouts in those clouds, and this is just me implanting an idea maybe, but I can imagine that there's these transparent images of those who we've lost throughout the journey, because that's like one of the core themes of Golden Wind. So I can just imagine that they're in the sky with it to show what this journey has accomplished in the very end. But one thing for sure, I am 100% certain we'll see a Gold Experience Requiem at some point in this opening. Though before I close out this video, I'd actually like to discuss the lyrics of the song itself, as it seems to be from the perspective of Diavolo, which I find is very interesting. It's almost like with Chase and Kira, especially since the lyrics themselves depict a more cynical view of the world, and ending with the death of the singer, who won't be remembered because of the flow of some golden wind. Though, what really interests me is the ending lyrics themselves. Fight with me, there's no hope I tried. Won't give up, it's my destiny. Don't care, I won't give you mercy. When my life is gone with the wind, will all pray for me? Hell no, time for golden wind. Which, of course, the idea of the singer claiming that victory is his destiny, and claiming that there's no hope in fighting him is very Diavolo, but it's also very Gold Experience Requiem as well. In fact, if you want some post-video homework, go out of your way to listen to the English version of Trader's Requiem, and you'll notice that the second chorus is very upbeat and way more positive. Sort of a reverse Great Days from Part 4. It's very possible that this second version of the chorus will be used in the fixed version of the opening if or when that happens. And at the end of the day, Trader's Requiem is probably my favorite opening from JoJo ever. It probably will be my favorite opening ever, and I just dearly love it. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to see your own Trader's Requiem and gain your ability with the Requiem arrow, well then you can head on over to buyshimonetta.com, buy yourself a copy of Shimonetta.